So, how does science work? Because from a distance, it looks very put together. Clean labs, white coats, equations that behave themselves, people calmly discovering truth like it was just sitting there waiting to be picked up like a lost wallet. But that's the marketing version. Up close, science is less calm discovery and more organized confusion with paperwork. It doesn't start with answers, it starts with irritation. Not the dramatic lightning strike kind of curiosity, more like a low level persistent itch in the brain. Something doesn't quite make sense. A pattern that feels slightly off, a result that refuses to behave, like watching the same clip loop again and again and one frame keeps glitching. And at some point, someone pauses and goes,
Wait a minute!
That's it. That's the beginning of science. Not certainty, not brilliance, just a small moment where expectation and reality stop agreeing with each other. And that's a problem, which is good, because science runs on problem the way engines run on fuel. So now you ask the dangerous question, what happens if I mess with this? And this is where science stops being polite observation and starts becoming controlled interference. You take something that normally behaves one way and you change it, adjust the temperature, remove a variable, add something that probably shouldn't be there. You poke reality, gently, repeatedly, sometimes with expensive equipment. And most of the time, nothing happens, which is incredibly disrespectful considering the amount of effort involved. But every now and then, something shifts, a number changes, a reaction takes slightly longer, a result comes out just wrong enough to be interesting. And again,
Wait a minute!
that moment is everything. Because now you're not just observing reality, you're arguing with it. You expected one thing, reality gave you something else, and now someone's wrong. So you guess, carefully, without too much confidence. You come up with an explanation, a hypothesis, not a grand declaration of truth, more like a working theory with the emotional stability of wet cardboard, something that might explain what you just saw, and then you immediately try to destroy it, which is a very strange relationship to have with your own ideas. Most people protect their thoughts, defend them, build identities around them. Science does the opposite. It takes the idea you just created and treats it like an enemy. You design experiments specifically to prove it wrong, because if it breaks easily, that's good. It means you didn't accidentally believe something fragile for the next 10 years. And if it doesn't break, if it survives multiple attempts to tear it apart, then it earns something very small, not certainty, just temporary respect. And then things get even worse for your idea, because now you show it to other people who are not there for your thought process, people who have no emotional attachment to your conclusions, people who, in many cases, would be delighted to find a mistake, not out of spite, just curiosity with a competitive edge. They repeat your work, check your methods, question your assumptions. They poke at your idea from angles you didn't think of. And this is important because you're not a reliable narrator of reality. You have biases, blind spots, a tendency to see what you expect to see. Everyone does. So science builds a system where your idea doesn't matter unless it can survive people who have absolutely no reason to agree with you. And if it does survive that, if different people in different places keep getting results that line up, then your idea starts becoming useful. Not true in some absolute untouchable sense, just reliable enough that other people can build on top of it without everything collapsing immediately. And this is where things get a little misleading, because from the outside, it looks like science produces facts, solid, finished, permanent, like someone stamped final answer on reality and moved on. But from the inside, nothing ever feels finished. Every idea comes with an invisible disclaimer. This works. Until it doesn't. Because eventually, something changes. A new tool appears, a more precise measurement, a better way of asking the same question. And suddenly, the old explanation starts to feel incomplete. Not necessarily wrong, just not enough anymore. Like using an old map that still gets you to the right continent, but the details are a bit questionable. So science updates it, sometimes gently, adjusting details, refining edges, sometimes dramatically, throwing out entire frameworks and replacing them with something that explains more, predicts better, and breaks less often. And occasionally, it just keeps the old idea anyway, because it still works well enough, and rewriting everything would be deeply inconvenient, which is why science keeps changing, not because it's unstable, but because it refuses to pretend it's done. And that's the uncomfortable part, because humans like certainty. We like endings, conclusions, final answers that we can lock in and stop thinking about. Science doesn't offer that. It offers something slightly more annoying: progress without closure. You get closer, more accurate, more consistent, better at predicting what will happen if you do something specific, but you never reach a point where you can stop questioning it entirely. Which means science isn't really about finding truth. It's about reducing how wrong you are, slowly, repeatedly, sometimes painfully. And the strange part is, that's enough. Because even if you never get perfect answers, you get answers that work. Answers that let you build bridges that don't fall, create medicine that actually helps, send signals across the planet, ask better questions than the ones you started with. Science doesn't need perfection, it just needs consistency. So how does science work? It starts with doubt, it grows through interference, it survives by being attacked, and it continues by accepting that whatever works today might need to be replaced tomorrow. It's not clean, it's not certain, and it's definitely not finished. It's a system built on the assumption that you are probably wrong, and then designed to help you be less wrong over time. And maybe that's the closest thing we have to honesty. Because in a world where everything feels certain, science is the one thing that keeps asking,
Are you sure about that?